Sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo Buddhaya. Dear children and dear Dhamma friends, today also we are here to talk about many things about our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, based on the Acharya Manusso, the beautiful, marvelous book written by our Pinnath Lokasamy Nasa recently. I guess that you everyone remember the facts we talked last week in our last episode actually. And maybe I will give this chance to talk. Hero, do you remember the things we talked in our last episode? It would be very helpful to other if you share your memory.
So last week we learned about the four surprising sights for the Prince Siddhartha, for what he saw, the four surprising sights, and when Prince Rahul born, and when the time was ready for him to leave the palace, and when he saw when he saw the woman in one party, and Prince Siddhartha saw how tired they were. And also we learned the Agatha.
Yes, Nibbutapada.
Oh, Nibbutapada. And we also learned about the skills. He could do archery.
Yeah, archery. Anything, Subodha, do you have anything to add for this?
We learned how how the people thought he was weak and he didn't know anything. And then he said he put a show to show how skillful he is to everyone.
And then something very interesting we learned in our last episode. It's not a human. Do you remember? He died because of the shock of departing Prince Siddhartha and was born in heaven.
And Swamin wants it was Kantaka. We learned about
Kantaka. Yeah. Okay. Today we will talk more about our Prince Siddhartha, still the Mahabodhisattva, not the Buddha yet. And then now the Prince Siddhartha is on the river bank. Do you remember the river's name? Name of the river he received?
Neranjara?
Not Neranjara.
Anoma.
That's Anoma. It's a different river. And then something very interesting happened. I have a beautiful picture that I can share with you. See? Okay. Just a little bit. See? Good. Okay. So the Prince Siddhartha is about to cut his hair because he just wanted to become monk, an ascetic in the forest. So Prince Siddhartha cuts his hair off and then to renounce the worldly life at the bank of the Anoma River. So do you see someone else in the sky? You see someone in the sky. That is the, can you guess? That is the King Sakka, the Lord of the Devas in the Tavatinsa heaven. He came to see the Prince Siddhartha, and then Prince Siddhartha cut off his hair and threw that into the sky, wishing that if I become the Buddha, if I definitely become the Buddha, this hair would never come back to the earth. If I will be the Buddha, definitely the hair will go up and up and up. That was his wish. And then he threw that hair, cutting off. And then God Sakka, with much Shraddha, with much faith, having a golden casket in his hand, received that bunch of hair of the Supreme Prince Siddhartha and went to the Tavatinsa heaven and built a beautiful stupa. Do you remember the name of the stupa he built in the Tavatinsa heaven? I have a picture, then I can show you like this. So when the Buddha visited the Tavatinsa heaven, still the stupa is there, available for devas to worship. In the picture, you see uh, the Deva, the Matru Divyaputra, his mother, the Prince Siddhartha's mother, died. You remember the information, and was born in the Tavatinsa heaven. When the Buddha visited Tavatinsa heaven, uh, the, he was born in Tusita heaven actually, and he came to the Tavatinsa heaven too. And you see the beautiful stupa behind in the picture. That is the Silumini style. Silumini is the bunch of hair of the Prince Siddhartha. And maybe someone can read this beautiful part. It's a little bit longer. Anyways, you can try. Someone who, okay, Rania.
Hey, my son. When the prince cut off his hair with the royal sword and threw it into the air, the king Sakka received it, since he knew that Prince Siddhartha is definitely going to become the Buddha. He deposited the sacred hair relics in a golden casket and went to his heavenly abode in Thalatimsa. There he created a great stupa out of gemstones with his divine power and called it Silamini Sat and deposited the hair relics inside it.
Okay, beautiful. So I rejoice the good merit you collected by reading. So I want you to remember the name of the stupa he built in the Tavating's heaven. What was that again?
Siluminisaya.
Siluminisaya.
Siluminisaya. Very good. Yeah, very good. That is Siluminisaya. And then Prince Siddhartha, the Mahabodhisattva, still doesn't have the robes for his ascetic life, for his monk's life. He is still in the royal divine dress, divine, what is it called, the ornaments he has, and he removed everything, and then he doesn't have the robe. And then Gatikara, you know Gatikara. Have you ever heard about Gatikara?
Hey, Masana.
Gatikara is the Brahma, lived in the Brahma world. And then Gatikara with a Ashtapariskara, 8 necessities, he came and offered the Prince Siddhartha, offered the Mahabodhisattva for his ascetic life. And then these are the things of Ashtapariskara. Gatikara Brahma, maybe if you have visited Polghavele in Sri Lanka, the Sambuddha Rajamaliga, this is the nice, very beautiful statue of Gatikara Mahabrahma created by our Pinot Lokaswami Mahanse. And then he was a very friendly person in the Kashyapa Buddha's dispensation. Kashyapa Buddha's dispensation, our Mahabodhisattva became a very faithful disciple called Jyotipala, and Gatikara was his best friend, and they were friends. He attained Gatikara, he attained the third stage of enlightenment. Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, which means non-returner, and was born in the Brahma world. And he was very happy that Prince Siddhartha renounced. And he wanted to offer something. These are the 8 things he offered to the Prince Siddhartha. What was the first one? If you have seen the Ashtaparikara, the gift people offer to the Bantes, these are the 8 things that it contains. Okay, what was the first one? Double robe. Double robe is the robe the Bantes wear. You know, that has 2 layers, 2 clothes together, and then the single robe has 1 layer, and then double robe, single robe, inner robe, and then the arms bowl. The Bantes, and then especially the Prince Siddhartha needed this for his ascetic life. And then the razor. But there is something very interesting that the Buddha or the Prince Siddhartha never used a razor here after cutting his hair off. I will share that information again. And then the 6th one is needle and the thread. And then the 7th one is a belt for the inner robe. And then the 8th one is water filter, and to filter the water. And then this was the information that I share with you. 2-inch hairs. After cutting his hair like this, you see in the picture, he cuts off his hair and then he threw that hair into the sky. And then after that, 2-inch hair remained and curled clockwise on his head. 2-inch curled, and hereafter the Buddha's hair never grew. That was very, very interesting information. Never grew. Beard never grew. And then he never wanted to cut or shave his facial hair hereafter. Remember? That was the last time he cut his hair. And then now he is an ascetic in the bank of river Neranjara. Now he needed some food. Whoever there to offer any food to Prince Siddhartha, Mahabodhisattva. Now he went to the village for some alms food with his alms bowl, but unfortunately he received a very old pittu. It's kind of a piece of bread gone out, gone bad. And then he received that for the first time when he goes on his arms round. He came back and then he was thinking like, I was a prince. I was a prince in a king's palace. I always received the royal food to eat. But now I am an ascetic. I am a monk now. I should be okay with that. And with no any disgusting feeling, he had that rotten piece of bread. It was called pittu. Okay, that was the first time he experienced such a very disgusting experience. But his mind was very, very mindful and okay with that. Do you like the information? And then the king of the country was the King Bimbisara. King Bimbisara, one day he was going on his arms round Prince Siddhartha. King Bimbisara, being his king's palace, saw this amazing person, like he had a golden skin, golden color, and then very handsome, very attractive, very royal person. He's like a heavenly being going on his road. He was amazed. King Bimbisara was amazed and he wanted to meet this amazing person and talk to him like this. Okay. Um, Meeting with King Bimbisara. Anybody else to read this? Diana. Diana.
The first meeting between the Mahabodhisattva and Bimbisara took place in Raja under the Pandava Bhupata. Only
Pandava Pabbata.
Pandava Pabala. Only after he renunciation, the king, seeing the young ascetic passing by the palace, was eager to meet him.
Mm-hmm.
Bimbisar wished him success in his quest and asked him to visit first Rajagaha as soon as he attained enlightenment.
Okay, very good. Sadhu, sadhu. So the King Bimbisara invited Prince Siddhartha when he becomes the Buddha to visit his kingdom. He was very happy to welcome the Buddha. And then next, now the Prince Siddhartha is wandering here and there to find out, seeking for the truth, seeking for the Buddhahood. What can he practice? What should I do for the enlightenment? What should I follow? Who could be my teacher? Is there anybody else to teach me the Buddha, the path to become the Buddha? So he was wondering. He doesn't know. He didn't know anything about the practice, what to do. And then he met a certain teacher who had a big number of students following some ascetics life, and he went there. Do you remember the name of that ascetic? Hiru?
Alar Kalama.
That was Alar Kalama, like this. Um, um, Maybe Aga?
Approaching Alara Kalama, searching for what was wholesome, the supreme, noble, and peaceful state, the Mahabodhisattva came to Alara Kalama and said, I desire, friend Kalama, to lead the spiritual life in the Dhamma and Vinaya. Then Alara Kalama said, live live here, Venerable. This Dhamma is such that a wise man is no long time, having deep knowledge himself of what comes from his own teacher, can live having directly experienced and attained it. Then in no long time I had soon mastered that Dhamma.
Okay, sadhu sadhu. Rejoice the good man for your beautiful reading. And then he was not happy about that because uh, like in a very short time period he learned everything he was taught, and he fulfilled everything in the under the teacher, but he did not attain the Buddhaship. He was not satisfied with that, and he left like this. Okay, this time, this goes to Peter and Peter. Peter, how are you doing today?
I'm not very good today.
Okay.
Then this occurred to me. This Dharma does not lead to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to deep knowledge, to complete understanding, to Nibbana, but only as far as rebirth in the sphere of nothingness. Then, having not found satisfaction in that Dharma, I was therefore disgusted with that Dharma and went away.
Yes, thank you for the beautiful reading. And he went away as he did not fulfill his understanding. And then he met another uh, ascetic. His name was Uddaka Ramaputta. Uddaka Ramaputta. And he was also a very talented teacher, but he also did not know to attain the arahantship. This goes to Isura?
I approached Uddaka Ramaputta and said to him, I desire, friend, to lead the spiritual life in this Dhamma and Vinaya. Then he said, live here with the Dhamma, directly experience and attain it. Then in no long time, soon I had mastered that Dhamma.
Yeah, he was very, very keen in learning the Dhamma, but he did not attain the arahantship or the Buddhaship. Yes, Linda, you ready? And then this time, this chance for Linda.
Yes, ma'am. Then this occurred to me. There was not faith for Rama. For me also there is faith. There was not energy for Rama. For me also there is energy. There was not mindfulness for Rama. For me also there is mindfulness. There was not concentration for Rama. For me also there is concentration. There was not wisdom for Rama. For me also there is wisdom. Having not found satisfaction in that Dhamma, I was therefore disgusted and went away.
Yes, the Mahabodhisattva, Prince Siddhartha, then now the ascetic, was very, very diligent in looking for the truth of the world, but he did not meet anybody else who can teach him the way. And he was very clever and talented, learning everything, but no one could teach you the correct path for the Nibbana or the Arahantship or the Buddhaship. And then he himself started his own practice like this. Maybe this time is for this chance is for Imosh. Go. On the bank of river Niranjara. Do you see the picture, beautiful picture of river Niranjara? Now he came to the river Niranjara. This is the beautiful Asapur, beautiful monastery. You see over the river Niranjara? That was our monastery in India, in Bodh Gaya. It's a beautiful picture, huh? If you have visited. Yes. This is what the Buddha preached later on after becoming the Buddha to Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Bhante.
Sariputta, I recall having practiced a spiritual path consisting of 4 factors. I used to be a self-mortifier, the ultimate self-mortifier. I used to live rough, the ultimate rough liver. I used to live in disgust at sin, the ultimate one living in disgust at sin. I used to be secluded, in ultimate seclusion.
Sadhu, sadhu, rejoice. And next, you see the picture. He strived a lot being in the forest without eating, looking for the Buddhaship, like understanding the noble truth, like this. Everybody taught him that the suffering is just the way that someone can achieve the enlightenment. Giving lots of suffering to the body, to the mind, is just the way, the practice for the enlightenment, for the nibbana, or for the liberation. And then Buddha, as the Mahabodhisattva, also followed as much as he could to attain the Buddhaship. And then I will give this part to read to Shiru.
Emma Pinocchio answer. This is what my self-mortification was like. I went naked, ignoring agreements. I licked my hands and didn't come or stop when asked. I didn't consent to food brought to me or food prepared specially for me or an invitation for a meal.
Sadhu, sadhu, rejoice. So see how he suffered being in the forest. I went naked, ignoring agreements. I licked my hands. Lots of things he followed. What? To attain the Buddhaship for our happiness. See? So the Buddha as Mahabodhisattva followed many things to become enlightened. And then it's a long part, maybe to Mivan.
I didn't receive anything from a pot or a bowl, or from someone who keeps sheep, or who has a weapon or a shovel in their home, or where a couple is eating, or where there is a woman who is pregnant, breastfeeding, or who has a man in her home, or where food for distribution is advertised, or where there's a dog waiting or flies buzzing. I accepted no fish or meat, or liquor or wine, and drank no beer.
Sadhu, sadhu. That's how our Mahabodhisattva practice. Or when he was receiving the food, he had many restrictions to follow. A very hard life, striving, austere practice maybe. And then we will read more about our Mahabodhisattva who was coming on his way. And then this chance goes to Chenoli and her sister. Are you ready? Maybe you have some unknown words. Don't worry about it.
I went to just one house for alms, taking just one mouthful or 2 houses and 2 mouthfuls. Up to 7 houses and 7 mouthfuls, I fed on 1 saucer a day, 2 saucers a day. Up to 7 saucers a day, I ate once a day, once every second day, up to once a week, and so on, even up to once a fortnight. I lived committed to the practice of eating food at set intervals.
Sadhu, sadhu. Rejoice to get married. See, Mahabodhisam, he sometimes say that sometimes he ate once a fortnight, just a little bit. How can one live like that? We need food all the time, maybe 3 times, maybe more than that every day. But he tried, thinking that this is just the way for the enlightenment. This is just the way for the Buddhas, for the liberation. And then next part is also like that. First part is for Vinude, and then the second part is for Chamudi. Yeah. Vinude first.
I ate herbs, millets, wild rice, poor rice, lettuce, rice brands, scrums from boiling rice, sesame flour, grass, or cow dung. I survived on forest fruits and fruit, or eating fallen fruits.
Okay, sadhu, sadhu. Sibute, he says that he ate cow dung. So why? He told that this is just the path for the liberation. This is just the path to attain the Buddhaship. Striving, lots of suffering. It's not peaceful. He was a prince in a king's palace. He left the palace. He had everything in his palace. Now he is eating cow dung. For what? For the Nibbana. Yes, Chamudi, your chance.
I wore robes of sun hemp, mixed hemp, horse wrapping cloth, rags, loads, tree bark, antelope hide, kusa grass, bark, wood chips, human hair, horse tail hair, or owl's wings. I tore out hair and beard, committed to this practice. I constantly stood um, refusing seats. I scattered, committed to the endeavor of squatting. I lay on a mat of thorns, made of a mat of thorns by my bed.
He says that I lay on a mat of thorns. How terrible is it? Making a mat of thorns my bed. That was very, very bad suffering. Our Mahabodhisattva in the forest. All right, we go ahead, and then next is we will give this to Sandesh. Sandesh, Putta, how are you doing today?
Good, Swami Mansa.
Try this then.
I was committed to the practice of immersion in water 3 times a day, including the evening, and so I lived committed to practice these various ways of mortifying and tormenting the body. Such was my practice of self-mortification.
Self-mortification. Sadhu, sadhu. Good reading. See, he said many, many things. And then we have more about his austere practice actually. These two parts will be for first part is for Asala, and then the second part is for Shannon.
And this is what my rough living was like. The dust and dirt built up on my body over many years until I started flaking off. It's like the trunk of pale moon ebony tree which builds up bark over many years until it starts flaking off. But it didn't occur to me. Oh, this dust and dirt must be rubbed off my hand or another's. That didn't occur to me. Such was my rough living.
Yeah, see his rough living in search of the Buddhaship. He says that many years he washed away the dirt and the dust, and then see it is like trunk of a pale moon ebony tree, like the bark, and then which builds up bark over many years until it starts flaking off. But see the mindfulness of Mahabodhisattva, the courage, and then the determination in his mind. But it didn't occur to me, oh, this dust and dirt must be rubbed off by my hand or another's. Or if someone comes to me and help me to remove this, he never ever thought that. Even in a thought, he did not have such an idea.
And this is what my living in disgust and of sin was like. I'd step forward or back ever so mindfully. I was full of pity, even regarding a drop of water, thinking, may I not accidentally injure any little creature that happened to be in the wrong place. Such was my living in the disgust of sin.
Okay, so he was very mindful, and then he was very compassionate. May I not accidentally injure any little creature that happened to be in the wrong place. Such was my living in the disgust of sin. Thank you for your beautiful reading and many merits and outrages. And then we have more about our Prince Siddhartha as Mahabodhisattva's practice. Dinodham, and you will be given the first part, and Devindu. I don't see you. Devindu gets the second part of this.
Yeah. And this is what my seclusion was like. I would plunge deep into a wilderness region and stay there. When I saw a cow herd or a sheep herd or someone gathering grass or sticks
or a lumberjack, I'd flee from forest to forest, from ticket to ticket, from valley to valley, from uplands to uplands. Why is that? So that I wouldn't see them, nor they me. I fled like a wild deer seeing a human being. Such was my practice of seclusion.
Okay, very good. And then?
I would go on all fours into the cow pens after the cattle had left and eat
I'm sorry.
the dung of the young suckling cows. As long as my own urine and excrement lasted, I would even eat that. Such was my eating of most unnatural things.
Okay, very good. I rejoice the good merit. And then, Minupa, how do you understand this part? So he says that his seclusion life, I would plunge deep into the wilderness region and stay there. When I saw a cowherd or shepherd, or someone gathering grass or sticks or lumberjack, I would flee from forest to forest, from thicket to thicket, from valley to valley, from upland to uplands. What is it, Minupa? How do you understand that?
So, the Buddha, before he discovered the middle path, the Buddha gave his body a lot of torture. And so in this case, this is kind of some of the examples. So the Buddha went very, very extreme in his practices, because these were all, from what I understand, these were all common ascetic practices, but the Buddha took it very extremely.
Yeah.
So in this case, the sutta mentions that to be in seclusion, kind of like a deer when they see a human, they would flee in the same way the bodhisattva would flee from the area that he is currently in if he were to see a person. And even with the with excrement, the bodhisattva took it to a very extreme, hoping that he could attain nibbana by doing these things. So it shows the Buddha's determination, even as a bodhisattva.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with others. Very right. And then next part, also about our Mahabodhisattva's practice. How about Senile? Senile, why don't I see you? Senile, you read, right? On it.
No, Bante, I haven't.
Senile, yeah, your chance.
Do I read the purple part?
Maybe both.
Oh, okay. I would plunge deep into an awe-inspiring forest grove and stay there. It was so awe-inspiring that normally it would make your hair stand on end if you weren't free of greed. And on days such as the cold spell when the snow falls in the dead of winter, I stayed in the open by night and in the forest by day. But in the last month of summer, I'd stay in the open by day and in the forest by night.
Okay. See the suffering he had. And then how anybody has to explain this a little bit? How did you understand this part? Arjuna, are you here? Okay, Subodha.
So I understand that the Buddha, whenever he would find a forest, he would stay there because the Buddha liked the forest. Like the Bodhisattva liked the forest because it's peaceful and the Bodhisattva Karya might help attain Nibbana.
Okay.
So and then he only stayed there during the
yeah, he liked seclusion, huh?
Yeah, he only stays there in the forest when there's people around, and then when there's no people around, he'll be in the outside of the forest.
Okay. He tried many things in search of Nibbana, right? In search of the liberation. He tried. He didn't know what to do, but he tried, right? Is it Subodha? Yes, it is. Yeah, thank you. And then these verses which were neither supernaturally inspired, not learned before in the past, occurred to me, he said. So automatically he had this thought. And then Duvin, I don't see you doing. Okay, Devanga, to read this beautiful Gatha. No?
My Swamin
Okay.
And then these verses, which were neither supernaturally inspired nor learned before in the past, occurred to me. Scorched and frozen, alone in the awe-inspiring forest, naked, no fire to sit beside, the sage still pursues his quest.
Okay. See our Mahabodhisattva. He was so diligent in practice, but he didn't find any solution, any answer for his practice, for his understanding. And then if you go furthermore, we have two parts, and then I will give you, this is from actually the Mahasihanada Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. If you would like to read this part, it's very interesting, and you can learn many things about Mahabodhisattva's practice for the Nibbana. And then these two parts will be for okay, Peter, so someone is there sitting behind you. And then, hello.
That's my mum.
Are you, what's your name?
Diane.
How do you pronounce it, your name?
Diane.
Taya.
Diane with a D.
Oh.
Diane.
Okay. Okay. The first part is for you. Is that all right?
All right.
Okay. This is how our Mahabodhisattva experienced in the forest.
I would make my bed in the charnel ground with the bones of the dead for a pillow. Then the cowboys would come up to me. They'd spit and piss on me, throw mud on me, even poke sticks in my ears. But I don't recall ever having a bad thought about them. Such was my abiding in equanimity.
Sadhu, sadhu. So see, he says that he lived in the charnel ground, in the graveyard. It's not a graveyard you always see like in a foreign country. It's very horrible in India. Sometimes very new dead bodies. Okay, sometimes he used a pillow. It's not a pillow. It was just a bunch of bones, he says, okay? But he says that I do not recall ever having a bad thought about them when they do many bad things to Mahabodhisattva. Such was my abiding in equanimity. And then thank you for your beautiful reading. I rejoice the good merit. Okay? Okay. We have no cameras, I think. Okay, Linda, your chance is to read the second part.
Yes, Bhante. There are some ascetics and Brahmins who have this doctrine and view. Purity comes from food. They say, let's live on jujubes. So they eat jujubes and jujube powder and drink jujube juice. And they enjoy many jujube concoctions. I recall eating just a single jujube. You might think that at that time, the jujubes must have been very big, but you should not see it like this. The jujubes then were at most the same size as today.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So jujube It's just a fruit. In India, in Asian countries like in Sri Lanka, we call this in Sinhala masang. It's a small fruit, like very, very little small fruit, very tiny fruit. And he ate that kind of fruit. And he says that jujube was, it's not a big fruit, even in the time of when he was striving in the forest. It's just the same size that you see today as well. And then okay, Duin, I'm sorry that you have trouble with your technology. You have the next next part to read. Maybe a half from here, okay? Okay, maybe a half. It's a big chapter. Yeah, I share that. Yeah, you will read up to here.
Namo Buddhaya Bante. Bante, can you hear me?
Yes, clear.
So, eating so very little, my body became extremely emaciated. Due to eating so little, my limbs became like the joints of an 80-year-old or a corpse. My bottom became like a camel's hoof. My vertebrae stuck out like beads on a string, and my ribs were as gaunt as the broken down rafters on an old barn. Due to eating so little, the gleam of my eyes sank deep in their sockets, like the gleam of water sunk deep down a well. Due to eating so little, my scalp shriveled and withered like a green bitter gourd in the wind and sun. Due to eating so little, the skin of my belly stuck to my backbone, so that when I tried to rub the skin of my belly, I grabbed my backbone. And when I tried to rub my backbone, I rubbed the skin of my belly.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I rejoice the good maid. And then Isuru, your Nangi's name? What was your Nangi's name again?
It's Sahansi.
Sahansi, how do you explain this extreme suffering, giving suffering to his body in search of the enlightenment, the Nibbana? How do you feel that he suffered a lot? So explaining in a chapter like this.
I just feel that it's the Supreme Buddha was very dedicated to finding the truth. So the fact that the Supreme Buddha put the Bodhisattva put himself through so much pain is just, it's awe-inspiring in a sense because of the dedication.
Yeah, how do you explain his suffering like this? So suffering a lot, like extremely. So due to eating so little, my limbs became like the joints of an 80-year-old or a corpse. That was like.
Sorry, what did they say?
So how do you explain this extreme suffering? A person, can someone do this?
No, it's really extreme to an extent where a normal person, I don't think they would be able to do this.
It's extremely hard to do. Maybe no one can do this. Maybe no one can do this. With one idea to attain the enlightenment, no one can do this. So, but our Mahabodhisattva did this for one idea to become the Supreme Buddha in this world. He didn't know about Noble Eightfold Path. He didn't know about anything like that before. That's why he tried these kinds of very extreme practices for the enlightenment. Okay, the last part for today is for anybody else who did not read today gets this opportunity, okay? The last one is for someone who did not read this part. Okay. And Minukas Nangi.
Due to eating so little, when I tried to urinate or defecate, I fell face down right there. Due to eating so little, when I tried to relieve my body by rubbing my limbs with my hands, the hair rotted at its roots, fell out.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So due to eating so little, he suffered a lot, like this. So this was all about our Mahabodhisattva. This was all about our supremely enlightened Buddha. Even you should have a very deep respect to our Mahabodhisattva, even to our Supreme Buddha. He dedicated his life being in the forest, striving, suffering, and dedicating everything he had for the happiness of the world beings like you and me. Now we have his Dhamma. After becoming the enlightenment, he preached out of his great compassion for the happiness and welfare, not only the happiness in this life, the happiness of our next life, and the happiness of the samsara, to be free from all the suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.